everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on another awesome and really cool pistol. Yeah, this thing has a pistol stabilizing brace, and like all of the videos on these pistols that I have made recently, these might not be future-proof as it comes to the pistol brace rule that might be released soon by the ATF. So please make sure you look at the date that this video was published before you frantically type in the comments, "That's not a pistol, that's an SBR." So I know you want to sound smart and like you know everything, but make sure you check the date of publication and do your research before commenting. But today we are going to be checking out the new Sig Spear LT pistol chambered in 7.62 by 39. Yes, the AK round. Now, if you guys don't know, the Sig Spear LT is the little brother to the newly adopted XM5 rifle by the US military. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a video soon on my thoughts on the XM5 rifle and what I think the future really holds for that weapons platform. But for today, we're taking a look at this smaller brother, this little brother version of that bigger gun. So before I get into the things that I like and don't like about this particular firearm, I want to thank the people that always make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this awesome pistol who lent it to the channel for review, and that is my good friend D. He has an amazing collection, and I'm honored and humbled that he lets me shoot his fine firearms. I always want to thank my Patreons because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. You guys know I recently got a community violation strike, and my Patreons always get to see all of my videos early, but also they help keep all this content coming, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. So in case I get banned in the future, you can still see what I'm doing. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who always provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know you guys are like, oh my gosh, here he is talking about Brownworks once again. But let me tell you, these videos are expensive to make, and Mark makes them possible because he supports channels like mine. So I feel like as a Second Amendment community, we need to support companies like his. But not only can you support me through him, you will get some of the best grips in the world. Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. You hear me talk about him all the time and show you his best work. He can make fine wood grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. He can put on custom logos, custom engravings. So I know if you were here watching a video on this awesome Sig Spear LT, I know that you probably own a bunch of fine firearms that can take wood panel grips, and you want to customize those, have one-off grips that are like nobody else at the range. Well, Mark is the man for you. And not only does he make wood grips for pistols, he also makes wood grips for modern sporting rifles. Yes, what other company does that? He can also laser engrave P-mags and AK-47 mags. So any of those logos, he can put on those as well. So he has services for you if you're just into modern sporting rifles. So I'm going to put a link in the description below. I'm going to ask that you guys go over there, check out and see what he has to offer. And I know his website is not always up to date with everything he can make. So if you don't find what you're looking for, please contact Mark. And when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about this pistol. And once again, yes, it is a pistol as I'm filming this video in early January of 2023. Now, the big thing about this version here that I was kind of excited to try out is that it's in a caliber that I'm not really sure anybody was asking for. When they upgraded the MCX in the Spear format from the Veritas, of course we were going to get 5.56, and of course we were going to get 300 blackout. But 7.62 by 39 was kind of a surprise. After all, they decided to go with these weird magazines, and you guys have probably heard the stories in the past about these AR style 7.62 by 39 magazines, and man, does that thing have a curve in it because of the way the 7.62 by 39 is made. And so these are not known for being very reliable. In fact, when I picked this gun up from D, he said you might have some trouble with the mags. And he had a bunch of mags. He goes, don't use those because they just don't work right. They're not reliable. And this is a story that goes way back to people chambering AR-15s in 7.62x39. Now, some companies have gotten around that in creating things like the CMMG Mutant, which I believe takes AK-47 mags, which work way better with this caliber. So, am I going to have some issues with this magazine? I actually think that I am. Actually, I know that I am, and that might be the weak point of this design. But let's go ahead and talk about the things that I like and don't like about this particular gun. First, it's an MCX. Yes, it's that new generation of assault rifles, even though this isn't an assault rifle because it's semi-automatic only and it's a pistol. But you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the civilian version of those. And we all love the AR-15. It's a timeless design, but as we know, technology is always advancing, even in the world of firearms. And so this is kind of like that next generation, taking things that we like from the AR-15, things that we like from the AK-47, and kind of blending them together with new materials, new technologies, and new designs. And so as such, this has the short stroke piston system that has been upgraded over time by Sig. We also have that Sig quality and the military provenance that comes with Sig. As you guys know, they are now the contractors for the M17 and M18 pistols, as well as the new XM5 rifle. So this gun has that military provenance, and you guys know that as a collector, that's something I'm really into. I like tactical guns, and I like guns that have some type of heritage with the US military, because guns tell the story of human civilization, whether you like that or not. And I'm all about collecting guns that have something to do with the history of humanity and the evolution of firearms design, which of course military guns are always on the cutting edge. Another thing about this particular variation of the MCX is that it's lighter. One of my complaints with the MCX Virtus, which I did a range report on, was that the gun was really heavy, even very front heavy. And Sig has done a lot to mill out the receivers, come up with a really lightweight handguard, take the weight off this gun. I always wanted an MCX ever since they came out. And then when I got to shoot them and hold them, I'm like, man, that is heavy. It's not as fun as you would think it would be. But they really took some weight off of this thing, and now I feel like it's such a more nimble rifle. It's, well, in this case, as I said, a pistol, but you guys know what I'm saying. It's a much more versatile gun. It's much more like an AR. It got rid of a lot of that weight, so I do appreciate that. Of course, I like the color a lot. You guys know I'm a big fan of flat dark earth, and I believe as of right now, this is the only color that is offered on this particular series of guns. So of course, when this thing came out, I wanted one just because of the color, and yeah, I guess I'm kind of a dork about that. But now let's talk about a couple of things about this gun that I don't like. Number one, I've already kind of alluded to, the caliber. For me, 7.62x39 is a fantastic caliber for AK-47s. Yeah, that's just the caliber that gun should be in forever. In my opinion, it does not belong in a magazine-fed AR style type of gun. It just has too many issues with it. And this, as I said, goes back to the 1990s or maybe even the 1980s when people were trying to chamber AR-15s in 7.62x39. It's just not as reliable. The mechanism just doesn't work as well. And of course, the magazines are the big issue. And that brings me to the second thing about this gun I don't like, the magazines. Yeah, look how oddly shaped that is. And that has to do with the taper of the 7.62x39. The rounds just don't want to go in this magazine properly. In fact, I'm going to cut away. I'm going to show you a close-up of the problems I have loading this mag and what I figured out you have to do. All right, so here's one of these crazy 7.62x39 AR mags, and I wanted to show you an issue that I occasionally have when I load these, especially if I'm loading fast. So if I start to load these, many times the rounds will go in just fine. But then once in a while, if you don't put them in there just right, they stick out a little bit ahead of the feed lips. That prevents the next round from going in. But as I put these in kind of fast, and I think it has to do with the fact that the rounds are so tapered, that occasionally what I get is a problem. Ah, here it is. right there. So one of the lower rounds that was already towards the back of the magazine is now sticking up towards the front. And so often when I'm loading this, about every 4 or 5 rounds, I have to take the mag, kick the rounds back into the magazine, and then I can continue loading. And that becomes a real hassle. Sometimes I have to do that a bunch, and it just slows down the process. And once again, the reason I think that is because these rounds are so tapered that as you apply pressure, it just kind of squeezes the rounds below it forward. It wants to come out of the magazine. And these magazines, which of course are designed to go into the receiver of an AR-15, these are a lot bigger than 5.56, so they have to be very careful about the dimensions of the mag. And I believe that just kind of gives us some problems. See right there, I just loaded the next one, and that round just popped forward. There's not much that you can really do to it, and I constantly have to just bang the back of the magazine to get those rounds to feed right. So it takes a lot more time to load these magazines, and it's a lot more frustrating. So that's something I don't like about this gun, and you have no other options besides using these magazines. All right, so let me adjust the camera, and let's talk about this gun a little bit more before we get it to the range. And that's what I don't like about these magazines. So if you guys have any tips or tricks about them, I would like to know, so share those in the comment section below. All right, so let's get this thing to the range. I've been rambling on enough. So as always, I like to start out with a target at just 10 yards. I just want to see how this gun functions, how it shoots, how it feels, what the trigger is like, and just to make sure that in general, these optics are zeroed to some standards. So this is the Aimpoint Micro T2. What a great optic that D-lent as well. So let's just shoot this thing for the first time. Let's make sure this thing functions, see what happens, and what I think about it. All right, so we got a lot to unpack here. This was not what I was expecting when I shot it. The first question you might ask is, Jason, why did you shoot only 24 rounds through it as your first shots? Well, it turns out I've discovered something else about these magazines, and I'm pretty sure it is a magazine issue, and that is, these things are supposed to be able to be loaded up to, I believe, 30 rounds. However, when the magazines are completely topped off, and you try to charge the gun, well, when that bolt comes forward, it doesn't always have enough energy to pick off that top round and chamber it. Maybe it's the friction because the spring is under so much pressure pushing up on that bolt. Well, sometimes it just wouldn't chamber, and I might have to use this forward assist, and sometimes it was so far out of battery, the forward assist would not even work. But I did catch this on camera, and I wanted to show it to you. But I'm almost 100% sure that is a magazine issue, because both of the magazines that I took to the range for this range trip had kind of a different number that I could top it off to. So if you kind of see weird numbers, it has to do with that reliability issue. So sometimes I'll shoot 24 rounds, sometimes it's 22. It's whatever I could load the magazine up to and have the gun work correctly. But now let's talk about how the gun shot. And obviously from the results, this gun is really accurate. Everyone says 7.62 by 39 is not an accurate round. Well, that is completely debunked. The AK-47, which of course has been chambered in that round forever, can be a very accurate rifle. And when you put it into a platform like this with modern barrel making, it's extremely accurate. So I was really pleased with that, and I really don't expect less from Sig. However, the biggest surprise for me was The recoil. This thing is a hard-hitting gun. Now, it's not crazy hard. It's not like it's uncomfortable to shoot, but I would definitely say the recoil in this is more than an AK, and that kind of took a little bit of the enjoyment out of it. While the trigger is fantastic, great reset, the gun very accurate, very attractive, very ergonomic and well built, the gun is a lot more hard-hitting than I was expecting. And for me, that's kind of a big downside to it, because a gun like this should be chambered in a caliber that's soft shooting, because this is kind of going to compete with an AR-15 platform gun, and those are really soft shooting. So why this hits so hard, I'm not really sure. Is it the piston system? Is it the recoil system? Is it the stock, or in this case, the brace? I don't really know. It just hits a little bit hard. And I have a feeling that as I start to shoot this a little bit faster, the gun is going to want to kind of rise on me, and it might not be as accurate shooting it faster, but we will just have to see. But right now, I am going to continue to take my time. We're now going to double the distance of this target like always, see what happens. So at 20 yards, let's see how I can do on this target, aiming for the head, see what happens to this group, and if I can keep this good accuracy up. Well, this thing is still pretty darn accurate, and it's running well as long as you know how many rounds you can load in these magazines. Another issue that is presenting itself, however, is the report of the firearm. Obviously, this is a shorter barrel than 16 inches because it is a pistol, and in 7.62 by 39, you have an intermediate rifle cartridge. You have a loud report. Even with this nice flash hider that they have, I can only imagine how loud it is with the muzzle brake. So standing behind the gun, you feel that concussion. You get that recoil impulse that's heavier than an AK. It just takes a little bit of the fun away from what I think this gun is designed to be. I really think the 5.56 or the 300 Blackout might be the better caliber for this. But who knows? Maybe you're a big AK guy and you just want a lot of guns in 7.62 by 39. There's nothing wrong with that. But just expect this thing to might not be as much fun as you're expecting. The recoil and the report, just a little bit too much for me for what the gun is designed, I think, to be. All right, so now let's go as far out as we can on this indoor range to 25 yards. I'm going to continue to shoot offhand. I am really impressed, though, with the accuracy of this firearm and this trigger. This is an outstanding stock trigger. I think they put the same one in the 5.56 and the 300 Blackout, and I really like the design of it. So hopefully you can see it is kind of curved and kind of flat. It's kind of a happy medium between the two. You guys know I'm not a big fan of the flat face triggers. Many of you are. I like the curved trigger, but that's kind of a happy medium between the two. So I think that's going to please a lot of people. So I'm really happy with what's in this gun when it comes to the fire control group, and I don't think you really have to go out and upgrade it. Tactile reset, short reset, it's audible. I really like it. All right, so 25 yards. Let's see if this accuracy continues. And so far, so good. If you're looking for an accurate 7.62 by 39 pistol, this is definitely the way to go. Well, now I'm going to bench rest it. So if it's accurate offhand, it can only get better from here. So once again, 25 yards bench resting, and let's see how this thing performs. And all I can say is if you're looking for a very accurate 7.62 by 39 firearm, this thing is fantastic. So the blend between the technology and the craftsmanship that Sig put into the gun and this awesome Aimpoint Micro T2 optic, yeah, this thing is making me look like a way better shot than I actually am. So the one thing I could not complain about this gun is its consistency and accuracy. So just great. I give it a lot of points, a lot of credit for that. All right, so we got one more test before I give you guys my final thoughts, and that's gonna be the quick magazine change. I wanna see how fast, of course, I can shoot this, get the magazine out, get a new one in, and get the gun back in action. I think the only issue I'm gonna have with this is the heavier than expected recoil. It might be a little bit harder to keep this gun on target. I think the gun just wants to rise a little bit because the axis of the bore is a little bit higher than that of an AR, and it kind of seems like it wants to flip just a little bit. It's still extremely manageable, but I'm just used to shooting ARs where that recoil comes right back into your shoulder. It's one of the big advantages of that design. And you don't really have that because the recoil mechanism here is higher in the receiver, and obviously we don't have a buffer tube. So let's just see how fast I can shoot this, how fast I can get this magazine change out, and can I keep the gun on target? And the gun wasn't too bad to keep on target even with the heavier recoil, but the issue that I was not expecting to have was stripping the magazine out of the receiver. Maybe because these magazines are awkwardly shaped or awkwardly balanced, I kind of had to strip it out. It didn't want to drop out like a standard AR-15 mag. And once again, my issues are more with the magazine than they are with the gun, but that's just going to be part of the course when you have the gun chambered in this caliber and use this type of receiver. So that mag change slowed me down, and the gun did hit a little bit harder than I would really want it to for that type of shooting, but it did work, and I didn't have a hard time keeping it on target. So what are my final thoughts on the Sig Spear LT pistol chambered in 7.62 by 39? Well, the gun is obviously well built. It has a good design, a proven design. I love the color. I think Sig has really improved the MCX over the years, and this is by far my favorite version of it. However, I would not want it in this caliber. I don't know if people were really clamoring for it in this caliber. I think everyone wanted it in 5.56 or 300 blackout. I understand why they wanted to make a variation of it in this caliber, but you just run into so many issues when it comes to these magazines. I understand too they wanted this to be a multi-caliber rifle where you can just change the upper receiver or certain components. But when it comes to 7.62x39, the AK style mags are just the best. So I would want a rock and lock system using AK mags for this gun over this particular design where you have the mag well. The gun has a loud report and it is heavier hitting than a standard AK, and it kind of takes the fun out of shooting one of these braced pistols. So on my star system, how would I rate the Sig Spear LT in 7.62x39? Well, being probably the most accurate 7.62x39 gun I've ever shot with a great trigger, I'm still only going to give it 3 stars out of 5. And I know that might disappoint a few people, but the range experience just was not fun. And sometimes that fun factor plays a huge role in how much you can like or dislike a gun. The magazines were just a pain in the butt to load. I had issues with how many rounds I could load in them. Sometimes it could be 24, sometimes it's 26, sometimes it's only 21. And if the gun wouldn't chamber that first round, I gotta take the mag out, pull a few rounds out of it just to see if it would run. It's just too much work and too much hassle. Maybe the gun would break in, maybe the mags break in. I don't really know, but it's not like one chambered in 5.56. It's just too much of an issue. But once the gun is going, it runs perfectly fine. The report's too loud, a little bit heavier hitting than an AK. I would just want one in a different caliber. But if you want a gun in 7.62x39 because you're an AK guy, this might be a great pistol to look at. But once again, 3 stars out of 5 for the Sig Spear LT in 7.62x39 in its pistol configuration. So thank you, Dee, for lending this to the channel. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. And if I were you and you are looking for a Sig Spear LT, I would definitely wait until you can find one in 5.56. But if you want one in 7.62, see if you can find somebody that has one or a range that can rent one and try it out before you buy it. So that would just be my recommendation for anybody. So what do you guys think? Are you excited about these new Sig Spears? They're the new version of the MCX, and I know a lot of people are paying way too much money for them, and for some reason Sig is only letting them trickle out slowly in 5.56, but have kind of flooded the market in 7.62x39. So if you see one of these on sale because of the caliber, as I said, shoot it before you buy it. That's my recommendation. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. Do you want one of these? And do you like the idea of one chambered in 7.62x39? So, as always, thanks for watching.